Ok, estudiantes, vamos a aprender un nuevo tenso. So this is future tense, right? This is something new. This is not review. You didn't have it in Spanish 1 or 2. So listen very carefully. It's not super difficult, though. I think you'll have a pretty easy time with it. Okay. It's different, right? And again, do not edit my PowerPoints. Just so we're clear, you will not get full credit for the notes. Future tense is different because up until now, you have, right, to conjugate a verb, you've taken off the AR, the ER, the IR, and you stick an ending in its place. Future tense, you don't do that. That first bullet point, we do not cut AR, ER, IR off of the infinitive. The endings that I'm going to show you get added to the infinitive, the verb in its original form. So future tense is different like that. We haven't had that before. Okay? So you start with the infinitive, right? And then these are the endings that you add. You need to make sure your accents are on point. If they are not, we are going to have a problem. So the yo form has an accent, the tu form have an accent, the la usted form, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. The only form that does not get an accent is going to be nosotros. I'm telling you right now, it's like preterite. There's a tense we haven't learned yet that if you forget the accents on these endings, it's going to look like you put a different tense and a different person and all this stuff. So it won't be half wrong on your eventual test. It'll be fully wrong. So make sure you get them obvious in your notes and that you're studying them. All right, so the verb comer, right? And of course, future tense is what someone will do. Okay, that was on one of the slides, but that's how we translate it. So you've been able to say what people are going to do with ir plus a plus infinitive ever since Spanish 1, but now you have a whole tense that basically works out to the same thing, right? It's, I will do that later, okay? So you take the whole verb, comer, which is what we did here, okay? And I added my endings, e con acento, as con acento, a con acento, hemos, an con acento, onto the infinitive. And it translates as will eat, right? So comeré, I will eat. And make sure your pronunciation is on point. It's got to be where that accent falls. Comerás, you will eat. Comerá, you, he, she will eat. Comeremos, we will eat. Comerán, you guys or they will eat. Okay, your endings, the great thing about them is that they work for all three types of verbs. Future tense is awesome, right? You don't have a separate set of endings for AR, ER, IR. They're all the same because you're not, it doesn't matter, you're leaving the whole verb as it is, right? You're starting with the infinitive and you're not cutting anything off. So you don't really need to differentiate by verb type. So here's an AR verb, right? So we did comer, which was ER. Here's an AR verb, hablaré, hablarás, hablará, hablaremos, hablarán, okay? The next slide has an IR verb, which I've chosen ir because this is a tense where it's actually not irregular. It's totally normal. Okay, so there's an IR verb. Again, the endings, e con acento, as con acento, a con acento, hemos, an con acento, you just stick them on the verb. Iré, I will go. Irás, you will go. Irá, he, she, you will go. Iremos, we will go. Irán, they or you all will go. Now, you do have some irregulars. There's always irregulars in every tense, pretty much. Okay, even, you know, imperfect when there's only 3, okay? You will have some irregulars in the future, okay? So these are verbs that are very common, and they have irregular stems or roots. So instead of using the infinitive, you're going to add the endings onto these stems that you're going to see on the next slide, okay? So here we go. Valer becomes valder. So you take the endings, right, the e con acento, as con acento, a con acento, hemos, an con acento, and you add them to valder, okay? You add them to tender, vender, salder, okay? Ponder, poder, aber, kaber, saber, ker, dir, and ar. And you can see what verbs they come from. That's how I organize them in my brain, right? You can see the first 6 have DRs. So there should be 6 irregulars that end in DR. Valder, tender, vender, salder, ponder, poder, okay? And there's 3s that are burrs. They have BRs, okay? Aber, kaber, saber. And then you have 3 just super weird ones. Ker, dir, and ar, like a pirate, okay? So here's an example of how tener would be conjugated. Again, you cannot keep the whole infinitive of tener. You switch it to tender, the irregular stem, and then the endings are normal. Tendré, tendrás, tendrá, tendremos, tendrán. Okay? And lastly, Eric Clapton, es la bomba. Okay? And if you can guess what the theme was to my PowerPoint, I respect you that much more. Adios!